I'm Nydam, and I make relief block prints and I write and illustrate books. I have always wanted to be a writer, and I always played around with a variety of arts and crafts, but I did not expect to be an artist. I didn't study art in school or anything like that. A twisty, turny path of fate brought me to teaching middle school art, and I ended up loving that so much that I was a teacher for 10 years until my kids were born, and that's what brought me into doing more of my own art. One of the things I love about block printing is that it transforms. So what you draw and the idea you initially have isn't exactly what you put down. You can't control everything about it. So there's always this surprise, and it always turns out a little different from how you imagined. And, partly because I didn't train as an artist, I've never really considered myself to be, fabulous at drawing. And yet, when you do this medium, even the simplest things end up looking really cool when you're done. All the art I make, it's something that I love. It's something that for some reason I thought, this is cool and I want to share it. And so anytime somebody else looks at my art and says, oh, this is cool, we've made this connection, from my heart to your heart. And when you're doing block printing, usually it's not about color. For the most part, it's just black and white. So that encourages you to look for things that are about lines and angles and textures and shapes and patterns. You start with a block of really any material you can carve. I use a little bit of wood, but mostly what I use is rubber. You carve away everything that in the finished picture is going to be white or the paper showing through, and you leave behind everything that's going to be black or the color of the ink. Normally when you draw a picture, you take a pencil, you're making a black line on a white background. Every time you carve on the block, you're making what's going to be a white line on a black background. After you finish carving the block, there's sort of two levels. There's the original level of the block, and there's the carved away part. And so you roll ink over the top, and it stays on the top surface, and it doesn't go down into the carved parts. And then when you press paper onto it, the paper transfers to the ink, and that's how the picture is made. When you're translating something from real life into just black and white, there are no midtones. There's no gray. You just have ink or no ink. To a certain extent, you can trick the eye into thinking it sees grays by doing like little fine cross hatching and textures. Basically, what you're always looking at is what something is next to or in front of or behind. If it's in front of dark foliage, I'm probably going to make it white. If it's in front of a white wall, I'm going to make it black. So everything has to be in relation with the things around it. One of the things that is unique about block printing is that you can always take more away, but you can never put it back. So that also affects a little bit the way you think. And then the writing gives us a chance to think about ideas that we might otherwise not have considered. It gives us a chance to experiment in our imaginations with, well, what happened if we lived this way? Well, what happened if we encountered people in a different way? All my books are trying to sort of celebrate curiosity and creativity and problem solving and adventure. And what if we went out and tried to live our lives looking for these good things and figuring out how to work with them? The Book of Nursery Rhymes and the alphabet book are pretty much all about the illustrations. Both of those started with the prints. The idea wasn't to illustrate a book. I was just making all these illustrations. At a certain point said, hey, I could put these in a book. The doors was the opposite. So every time in the story the kids go through a door, the door appears in the book. I had to make the illustrations to fit the story. And some of them are real doors in real places. So like the old State House in Boston is one of the locations that has a door that they go to. And then some of them are imaginary. This is my most recent book. This one is inspired by medieval bestiaries, which are books of animals with moral lessons drawn from them. And every letter of the alphabet has 1 or 2 animals and then stories about them. I really believe that art and writing have the potential to make the world a better place. For one thing, the art in particular, it reminds us to appreciate things. It focuses us on things that we might otherwise take for granted or not notice, and it says, hey, wait, look at this. This is important. This is worth preserving. This is worth celebrating. It's worth sharing with other people. It is one of these things that whether you think you're not artistic at all or whether you've been an artist for 50 years, it looks good no matter what you do. Pre-COVID, I taught kids classes in the summer and adult classes through Nydam Educational Foundation in the spring and fall. I don't know when I'm going to be offering classes again, but keep your eyes open if you're interested. I have a website, I have a blog, and there's a bunch of links on there and all kinds of instructions for people who want to get started. For anybody local, I can either mail things or we can do pick-up, drop-off, with masks and distance. And if you have any questions about anything, I'm always easily available through email.